What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey's YouTube channel, episode 2 of season 8. I'm your host, Jim Icavone, joined as always by Jack Smith. And if you're catching us live on YouTube, make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit the alert so you never miss a show. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're first in line when newest episodes drop. Before we get going tonight, let me tell you about our brand new HW Hockey golf hats. Let me get that banner up for you guys. There it is. Sorry, you got to look at my face while I read this here, but there's the barcode. Whether you're hitting the links or just repping your favorite hockey brand off the ice, these hats are designed for comfort, breathability, and that clean, classic look. With a sleek fit and embroidered HW logo, you'll be turning heads while sinking putts. Don't miss out. Keep it high and wide all summer long before they're gone. Venmo at HW Hockey, and make sure to send over your mailing address so we can ship you out your brand new HW gear. Jack, so since the NHL draft, not a whole lot's happened. Cam York signed his contract, 5 years, $5.15 million per. But other than that, outside of that, it's been pretty quiet on the Flyers front.
Yeah, I mean, just pretty much just dev camp. If you were able to watch any of that or see any information on that, a couple of notes there, but other than that, it seems like their off season's coming to a quiet close. But I think that's because they brought in a hell of a lot of guys in training camp, and those battles there are going to be very interesting. And I'm just going to look forward to that because there's several names that could actually find themselves with the Forrester injury, even without it, but with it, definitely one or two names that could find themselves on the opening night roster. So it should be very, very intriguing and very, very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we're going to talk forward lines later on in the episode. We came out with a video earlier this week. So the theme of the week's kind of, the Flyers forward lines. And as Jack alluded to, especially with Tyson Forrester set to miss potentially some time there, there's going to be a couple spots wide open for some players to maybe, make the roster that we don't have exactly penciled in yet. So definitely going to talk that. We do have a special guest waiting in the wings for the episode, Victor Nuno of Fantasy Hockey Life Podcast and Dobber Prospects. We want to talk, obviously, fantasy with Victor, and he went to another NHL draft this year, so we want to hear about his experience there. So with no further ado, why don't we bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the fantasy hockey doctor himself, Mr. Victor Nuno. Victor, it's been too long, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jim. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, it's been too long, but yeah, it was a fun time at the draft, and looking forward to chatting about that.
Yeah, and we're excited to hear about your experience. So it was the first decentralized draft, at least in a long time this year, and you've been to a few drafts prior, correct?
Yeah, two before that.
Okay. So how was this experience for you? I mean, was it a noticeable difference? Did you still enjoy yourself? What was it like?
Huge difference, I would say. It was very different. And from a person covering it, it was a lot easier because there were just a lot less people there, which wasn't necessarily a good thing, but it was certainly easy to get around. It was easy to interview the players and to, go from one place to another. I think it was really not ideal for the people who I think this draft is all about, and that's the people getting drafted. I think that was a really kind of unfortunate experience. There were a lot of tech issues for anyone who watched online, people having the moment of their life, and then the GMs and scouts that are trying to talk to them you can't communicate, you can't hear each other, there's tech issues. Like, that was just really unfortunate, and I think they kind of missed out on that opportunity to just have that awesome in-person moment. So that part wasn't ideal, but the rest of it with just how it worked in terms of being able to interview the players and that part was really good. And I think that there were a lot fewer people though, just in general, because I think a lot of certainly the reporters and the people covering didn't come along with the NHL teams. And then a lot of the people who are more East Coast based, I think, decided not to make the trip. And so it was all in all just a lot smaller.
That's right, because it was all the way. Actually, it was right on your home turf, wasn't it, this year?
Yeah, I mean, I live about an hour and 10-minute flight away, but it was very easy. Yeah, so the West Coast for sure was no problem. But yeah, it was definitely a lot more of the West Coast reporters and people who cover teams and scouts and things like that were there, but almost no one from, Quebec and back east. So it's definitely a different vibe.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, kind of stinks. Is the way I look at it, and I've yet to go to a draft, but it's an amazing networking opportunity, isn't it? You meet all kinds of people. Everyone that I feel like you chat with on Twitter, you end up seeing at something like this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to kind of have connected with a lot of those people the last couple years. Many of them weren't there, but there were some different people who, didn't make the trip to Nashville or something like that who came this time. And so it's definitely good to connect with all those people that you've seen or chatted with online or, we've had on the show. So it's nice to like see those people in person for sure.
And so we've been trying to set up a show, I think, since draft night. I've been trying to get you on, and look, I don't think anybody expected. So I'm just reading Linden 49's comments here. I got to tell you, like, I was like, okay, I'll line up a bunch of guests for the show. The show will be 2 hours, 2.5 hours long. The next thing you know, we're 3-4 picks in, and we're an hour into the draft. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I can do a 5-hour show tonight. Like, so the Flyers ended up trading up. I think we were like 2 hours in at that point, 2.5 hours in. I'm like, I'm going to have to figure something out here. So 2.5 hours went by, 2 weeks go by. We finally get you on. So what was that like there though? Like, did you kind of know going in that you were going to be there for, I don't know how long it was. Lyndon says 4.5 hours, but what was that like?
Yeah, it was exhausting. It definitely was that long. I think it finished about 5 hours, just under 5 hours, but then the wrap up and, just like talking to people afterwards, it was definitely like almost a 6-hour experience. It started at 4 p.m. local time. I don't think we got out and like started having a bite to eat and unwinding until almost 10. So it was brutal. And everything just took so long because it was really two events, right? It was an in-person event and it was a virtual event. It was this hybrid. So they had to do both things. They had to get people over to the cameras and connect with all the remote studio people. And then they had to do the in-person thing. It was basically like running two events at once. And so it was a lot. It took each player quite a long time to come up to where they were going to be interviewed and all that. And some of them were relatively quick, but most of them took a long time, including they usually have the top three, do the little picture 1, 2, 3. That for some reason took almost 45 minutes until we got to interview all the players. It was like we're just waiting. Like, where are they? Did they go like back to their hometown and back, or like what is going on? So yeah, the whole thing just took a very long time, and we were all pretty wiped out by the end.
I can imagine. Are there any whispers through the grapevine that this will be the first and last decentralized draft, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, that's all everyone was talking about, like, especially because it was so good last year at the Sphere. It was literally like the best experience coupled with the worst experience. And so I think if it hadn't been so great last year, this version wouldn't have seemed quite so bad. But because it was so good that everybody was saying like, we can't do this again. Like, I think all things considered, it turned out okay, but you see, and they voted before kind of knowing exactly what it was going to be like last year. So with that hindsight, there's a lot of speculation that it's going to revert back. I guess the vote was 26-6 in favor of doing this. And from the people I talked to, at least a half dozen or more of them are already planning on changing their vote. Wow. And so it's just a matter of what happens with the rest of them in the middle. And it sounds like they're going to vote in August. So we probably won't know for a little bit longer, but everybody except some of the team side executives who sound like they want to save anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 by sending their group. That's basically what it comes down to. Is are they going to save a little bit of cash by sending their cohort, or are they going to be okay with spending that? That's really what it comes down to. So I really hope that they vote to take it back, because there's no comparison.
I've heard from anybody that I've spoken to that they hope it goes back. So let's kind of hope that, $200,000 is not chump change by any means. But let's hope that the owners and the executives do the right thing here for sure. And then Vegas is a tough act to follow, no matter what. They're like, you have a draft in the Sphere, and it's like, how do you top that? So, But okay. I mean, let's get a little bit. Let's dive into some of your expertise here, Victor. So it's kind of that time of year where the draft and free agency are done, and we're not in the dog days of summer yet, but obviously hockey's over. It's time to start thinking about those dynasty leagues, those hockey leagues, those fantasy leagues. Start to open those back up. Get the league back together, see what everyone's up to. Is everyone in the league again next year? And it's time to, I think, maybe start the fantasy hockey conversation. And who better to talk to than you, really? And so what I want to know is, I want to ask you about Porter Martone and what you like about Martone, and try to predict his future fantasy production, because this is a guy where he might see hits, blocks and shots and assists. He might be one of those high bash guys for you, Victor. And so I also want to ask you, from the Philadelphia Flyers, I mean, who should fans want to own from the Philadelphia Flyers this year in fantasy hockey?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, I guess we could talk about Martone first, because that's interesting. I really do think that Philly wanted a center. I mean, I think we saw that with their rest of their picks. But when Martone fell to them at 6, I think they just had to. They just had to do it. And so I believe I heard that the Islanders wanted to trade up to get Higgins, and Philly was like, nope, we're taking, we like Martone. And I think that even though Higgins and O'Brien were on the board, they weren't really comfortable taking that type of player. I think they wanted someone bigger. They wanted someone more physical. And so that made sense, because you see it went D, center, 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 wing, and then center, center, D, center, 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 D, center. So he was really the only winger in that entire conversation. But the reality is that he's so elite that you can't pass on that type of skill. I think that he's pretty unique, because he is a big guy, but he doesn't really play like your traditional power forward. I mean, he's not the kind of guy that's just gonna run around hitting everybody. Like, he is physical, but I would say it's a more measured physicality to produce positive outcomes, like separate guys from the puck, protect the puck, make good plays, not just hitting to hit. I kind of think of like the difference between, you see a guy like Jamie Benn, who's really in there to like just smash guys, and then there's guys who are really good at protecting the puck, and they're big, like Draisaitl's probably the premier example. But you look at a guy like Alexei Protas, who doesn't really hit, but he is almost impossible to get the puck from at times. He's so big and has the soft hands. And so I think Martone can be an even better version of that, because I think his vision is excellent, and he's so good at protecting the puck, and he's a great playmaker, probably more a playmaker than a shooter, which I think works out well for some of the offensive options that you have there in Philly.
Yeah, if they can, I think the plan is Martone slides right into that top line, and you pop him in there with Michkov. And 63-point rookie season for Michkov last year, who he's beaten out by Celebrina, who you get to watch a lot of over there in San Jose. But 63 points his rookie year. I think he had 26 goals, 8 power play goals. Fans are expecting those numbers to rise in year 2. There's no John Tortorella to sort of hold back any production there. We'll see what Rick Tocchet does if he kind of just unleashes him. But I think Flyers fans are looking at the future, like Porter Martone, future star, Matvei Michkov, star. Can these guys feed off each other? Like, does it even matter? I mean, it does matter who's in the middle of these guys. But you stick a Trevor Zegras in there, who, if he can even get a little bit back of what he was doing in Anaheim, if he can even, a 55, 60-plus point season this year, I think Flyers fans would be ecstatic. But talk about, fantasy production or who you like on this Flyers roster heading into next year. I mean, I almost forgot that they traded for Zegras when I was thinking about the top line here.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Michkov and Konechny, I think stand ahead of the bunch. Tippett's certainly great for Bash. I think there's a real problem down the middle though, and I think that is something that they probably need to resolve. I think guys like Michkov and Konechny are good enough that they don't necessarily need a huge play driver, but someone at least for Michkov, someone needs to kind of hunt down pucks and help, gain entry and possession and stuff like that. So I think that I'm still interested to see what they're going to do, because I think that they're a little weak down the middle, and I think part of it depends on Coots. He's been an awesome player and he's still good, but he's not the player he was, and so there's a little bit of question marks there. But yeah, I mean, I think there's big question marks with Zegers too. Like he did get a lot better defensively, which is something Anaheim asked him to do, and we know he has some pretty elite offensive talent. But I really think he's better suited as a wing. I'm sure they're going to try him down the middle, and we'll see. Like, I think there's a strong possibility it could work, but I think there's also a strong possibility that they push him back to the wing and it doesn't really solve their problem down the middle. So I think that a lot of it's going to depend on that, because if you're weak down the middle and you're getting scored on a lot and continue losing, no one's going to be happy about that, right? So unless you're just trying to tank, then, which I don't think they are. So that's going to be a problem. So I'm a little concerned about that. In terms of Martone in the future, he's not ready now. Although I think he's one of the most NHL ready guys in this draft, but I don't think he's quite there yet. He is the type of winger that doesn't really need a good center, because he's such a strong playmaker and possession guy that you could put him on a second or third line and he could basically drive that line from the wing, which I think is a really unique situation that not a lot of wingers can do. But it really gives you a luxury to say, okay, like whoever their number one center is years down the road, sure, Martone could play with them, but he also could drive his own line, which is a huge luxury to have. And so I think that he's a future star for sure. And 2-3 years down the road, will probably rival Michkov for the biggest fantasy asset on the Flyers, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to think about the prospects of those two. I mean, the Flyers really haven't had a star since Claude Giroux, and Konechny is sort of, I think, a low end star. Like, if I don't know if being out west, you've had the opportunity to watch Konechny as much as we have, but when this guy, I mean, if I feel like I notice when I watch him live, he stands out from everybody else more than he does watching him on TV. So I think it's fair to say that Konechny is a low end star, whereas Claude Giroux is, I think, high end. So I guess the point I'm making is Michkov, Martone, in my opinion, are going to be bona fide stars in the NHL. And it's been a while since the Flyers have had two of those guys at the same time, as bad as that is to say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think Konechny is a low key star, and we saw him. We've seen him internationally do really well, and I think in fantasy his stock goes up even more just because he provides peripheral coverage. So you're not getting zeros from him pretty much any night. He's going to do something, even if he doesn't score. And so those guys with high peripheral floor are always worth a little bit more. Plus, he has the points beyond that.
Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. The Flyers have a few of those guys that are fun to watch, and I think you mentioned Owen Tippett earlier, and this is a guy that, at least amongst Flyers fans, has sort of found his way into that whipping boy category. It was Morgan Frost for so long, and then it's funny amongst fans. Like, as soon as that guy is gone, they instantly look for the next guy, right? And Owen Tippett has become that guy. Didn't have the best year last year. I think he played through a lot of the year, maybe hurt or recovering from an injury. You still like him in fantasy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's a great player. Plus, he also provides a little bit of those periffs. He's a shooter. I think he was a little. Well, I don't know exactly why he was a little bit down last year. I think there were a lot of reasons, as you mentioned, between the teams. So I think that you could look at that and say, he should be better. He has been better. I think that it's always a little interesting when guys get paid, right? It's like you never know how it's going to affect them. And I'm not saying he's like oh, I got my payday, I'm done, but I think it does kind of change your mentality a little bit. And I think that coupled with just how not great the season went, it was a little difficult for Tippett. Plus he scored 27, 28 goals. And I think sometimes there's this belief that, you're in that zone, and then when sometimes things get going tough, you grip the stick a little tighter and things sometimes don't go your way. Plus, I think he really needs a specific guy to play with, because he's a shooter, like he's a finisher. So you got to get that guy on his line that can provide the puck in time when he needs it in the right spot. And I don't know if they have that guy right now. So I thought Frost might be it for a bit. They had some connections. They also obviously there were other issues or perceived issues with Frost. That's why he's no longer there. But yeah, I think once they find the specific center for him, I think you can unlock a 40-goal guy there. I think he's got that talent, but it's just, it hasn't quite worked, and I'm sure they're trying to figure out a solution.
He reminds me of a wild horse that you just need to rein in a little bit, like I think since he's been here, one of the things that people talk about is his shot. He doesn't hit the net as often as you would like. Does he work with a shooting coach? This is a guy that likes to puck on his stick. He likes to play in transition. So what kind of player does he need to play with? And is there a guy on the Flyers? And then Tippett for me is another guy that I wonder if, without Torts, let's see what he did. Torts was a big fan of Tippett. So I'm just assuming here. But I wonder if, I'm curious to see who kind of flips the switch this year now that John Tortorella is no longer the coach. And Tippett for me kind of strikes me as one of those guys, but that's how I kind of see him. Like I just see him as a wild horse, and he just needs to be kind of broken in. He just needs to be tamed. This guy could be, like you mentioned, 40-goal scorer. I wasn't thinking that high, but a guy that I could definitely see a 30-30 season, 60-point seasons, So yeah, the only thing with Tippett and Jack, maybe you could tell me, like, I didn't know that he had 0 power play goals last year. If you don't score on the power play, I don't think it's going to be tough to hit 30 and 40. He
also took 100 less shots, which was concerning considering what you paid him for it. But he's a young player, so I'm not pulling the plug yet, but some of what he said bothered me more than, what I've actually seen, because I can at least say he's a young player. Let's see what happens. First year of a big deal. It is a mindset change, different mentality. Let's see if he can rectify it. But we have Michkov on one end, 63 points as a rookie. Oh, I could do so much better. And Tippett clearly regressed, barely got 20 goals, 0 power play goals, 100 less shots. Oh, I think I had a pretty good season. I'm like, not for what you're getting paid for, pal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's we're coming up almost. We got you for another 5-6 minutes, Victor. So defensively, we're not even going to talk goalies for the Flyers, because I don't think anybody wants to own any of the Philadelphia Flyers goalie stock.
They're just stash a couple of, and that's it.
Unfortunately, I think I'm stuck with Urson in the league that we do, Victor. So I think I'm going to be stuck with that for a little while here. But defensively, there are some players that I think you can take shots on in fantasy. You mentioned Cam York earlier in the show, signed a 5-year deal, was being asked to do different things under Tortorella than maybe what he was drafted for. Big shot blocker, playing a lot of defensive zone coverage and not so much offensive. Somebody put out a stat the other day, I think it might have been Jordan Hall, that Jet Luchanko, who I think played in 7 or 8 games with the Flyers last year, had more power play time last season than Cam York did. And so I'm wondering if you think Cam York is due for a bounce back season in fantasy, Victor. Is he a guy that people should be taking a flyer on maybe? Is he on your radar at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole Philly defense was so scrambled under Tortorella. It's like you never knew what to expect, and it just seemed like he cycled through different options on the power play. And I don't really know exactly how he was choosing them, because it didn't really seem to. I don't know if you guys thought differently, but it didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense from the outside. And when you look at, like, if you're talking about like who deserved it, like who was playing good defensively, that didn't seem to line up either. So it's just a little strange. I've always been a Cam York guy. I've always said that I think he's been miscast. You know, people would say like, oh, he's a small offensive defenseman. Like, he's really good defensively. You know, he if you look at the numbers too, like he was quite literally the third best on the team in terms of like Corsi against, you know, and some of that might be role and how much he's asked to do, but like he's driving play. He's, you know, he's really quite underrated, I would say. And I think that the deal that he signed shows that the organization does believe in him more than, you know, some might think, which I think is a really good thing. I think, you know, playing on the offside and maybe being a little miscast has maybe hurt him a little bit. I've always thought that he could do a little bit better. Every time I look at his numbers, I'm like, really? That's all he got? 30-point pace? Like, come on. I still think he can do more than that. I don't think he's like a 50-point guy or anything like that, but I think he should be able to hit 40, 45 with the right opportunity. I don't know if they can get him back on his left side, but, you know, I think that's a whole other problem. But yeah, I do think that I kind of feel like York deserves the opportunity. I know that Drysdale's there, but I don't know. I feel like it's been a real challenge for him, and he doesn't have as good underlying numbers in terms of his play driving. His Corsi against has been pretty awful for the last couple of years. And I know he's just adjusting to the team and everything. So maybe I'm sure they're going to give him a try, but to me, I think it should be York, and I think they should give him a little bit more opportunity. But the real guy that I like is Emil Andre. I love that guy, and I really think that they should give him an opportunity because in the small sample size that he had, he was great. And I know Russ and I talked about him on our show, and it's like once they pulled him out and sent him down, the winning kind of stopped, you know. And I don't, you know, you could say there's a correlation there or not, but they definitely seem to look a little bit better with Andre in the lineup.
Yeah, and look, I 100% agree with you. I've been on the Emil Andre bus for a while, even maybe too far, because I've said multiple times I think that he could replace Cam York eventually as a second pair guy. So, you know, maybe it's time to pump my brakes here. Like, we're going to see what they do with Andre. He's going to have a shot this season. What I did notice, they were kind of yo-yoing him a little bit last year. He was up, then down. And believe it or not, because you would never imagine this with the Flyers organization, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and the Flyers play two different systems. So you're sending a guy down to play with the Phantoms. He's got to adjust. You know, he's down there for a significant amount of time, comes back up with the Flyers. I'm watching him. I'm like, why is this guy getting beat? Like this isn't his style. Like, he doesn't look right. Lo and behold, he's got to adjust back to the way the Flyers play hockey. You know what I mean? So they're kind of jerking him around instead of letting him get acclimated to the system that he's supposed to be playing. I'm hoping that he can stick up with the Flyers this year and only have to play one system. Or, crazy idea, maybe the Flyers and the Phantoms both play the same system. This way it's easy for guys when they transition from the AHL to the NHL. Victor, we're almost at our half-hour mark here with you. Where can everybody find your work? Where can they listen to your shows? You have player cards that I would like you to talk about a little bit, because I think there's a lot of information on those as well.
Yeah, thanks so much. So Fantasy Hockey Life is the podcast that I do with Jesse Severe. We're going team by team. We do a team preview that incorporates all the pro side, and then we look at prospects. We look at prospect goalies with our guest Kat Silverman, and then we go through the relevant prospects. So it's a whole comprehensive look at the team by team per from a fantasy perspective, and we're about halfway through, so check that out anywhere you get your podcasts. And I also have a website, Fantasy Hockey Life. And you mentioned the player cards. One thing that I always was frustrated at is you think like, oh, this guy might be good at hits or blocks or whatever, and I always was frustrated that wasn't always so obvious. So I made cards that display that. And so, like, I pulled up this Porter Martone card, and it tells you that he's 60th percentile for hits, 20th for blocks. So he hits, but maybe not as much as you would think in terms of a big basher. So it's always good to kind of be able to see that. and incorporated in that is my ranks in terms of how much I like them in fantasy. So you can check that out at fantasyhockeylife.com, and we have a Patreon where you can access some bonus content.
Man, that's great for category leagues. Man, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Good for anything, but really good for category.
it's hard to know sometimes. You might think like, oh, some people say like, oh, this guy's physical, and you think, oh, that means he hits or that means he gets penalty minutes, but not necessarily. And so it's good to just know exactly what it is, and that's what these cards allow you to do.
I like them already.
Yeah, they're great stuff. A lot of help. Didn't help me so much last year, but that's kind of how my fantasy season went in every sport. So, Victor, thanks for taking the time. We finally got you on, so I'm very happy we got to talk and catch up, and we'll have to have you on again soon, man.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
All right, we'll talk soon. Enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, take care.
All right, Jim, we're gonna have to send him a copy of our rules from our scoring, and he can just fix it.
I was going to bring the league up, but
we could have had a whole hour and a half on that.
I think as soon as I would have brought up that we only can start three forwards and 2 defensemen and 1 goalie, it just would have been shot down.
I would have liked to seen his reaction live. I would have liked to see that. Yeah, it's something. It's something. So we'll get him involved if we need some help. So all right, where we redo the whole league. I've only been pushing for it since day one, but you know what? I have a dynasty hockey league, and people are active for the most part, so I'll take it. One day we're actually going to fix it.
Zach, who are you talking about?
Yeah, maybe it's me or whoever created our league.
Oh yeah, that I would agree with.
There's 4 idiots. Hope none of them are watching.
Okay. All right. So we talked to Cam York a little bit, Jack. Signed a 5-year extension, $5 million per or 5.15 per, which very happy with. Got to be honest. I know the cap's going up. Yeah.
5 years? Like what? But when is that number ever? Like, it's not quite a bridge. It's more than a bridge, but it's not exactly long term. It's like the prime of the guy's career. Like he'll be like 29 and 3/4 when the contract ends. That's great. That's absolutely what you want.
Yeah. And look, what I was worried about that he was going to get north of 6 or close to 7. So he's getting paid like a second pair D at $5 million per season. So I feel a little bit vindicated in that sense. They said that they said, hey, you're playing top pair for the Flyers, but you're not a top pair.
It doesn't make you top pair
in the NHL.
Andrew McDonald played top pair for the Flyers, for God's sake.
Yeah, and so I like the number. The years are fine. I want to see, if they can find a way to unlock some of his offensive ability now. And look, he put up 10 goals, I think, a couple years ago. I don't know if he's a 10-goal guy. But I agree with Victor that there should be more there offensively than we saw during the 3 years under Tortorella. So I want to see the offense that was advertised when he was drafted. He's not a prospect anymore. Like he's not let's wait around and give him some time. I know he's 24 years old. To me, once you hit 24, now it's like, okay, let's see here. He's played 235 games in the NHL. I forget what that number is, where it's like, okay, when he hits that number, he's basically what he is. Do you remember that number, Jack?
I don't remember the number, but what I will say is defense usually takes longer anyway. So 20, I hear 24, and you got him locked up for all his 20s. Anything, and based on the number, 5.12 or something per year?
Yeah.
With the cap going up every year and jumping pretty significantly, this deal is going to look like nothing. Like, I mean, it's going to be nothing. Anything else we get out of him is probably going to be a bonus because he is good defensively. He blocks shots. He's good at shot suppression. It's just that what we drafted, and he's not going to lay anybody out, but like what we drafted him for, that offensive, and we've seen flashes. He's made some moves blue line that like a basketball player would fall over. Like it was impressive, and we've seen him. It's there. He just doesn't do it, and it's not just on the power play. Like, I've seen him do it out of nowhere on 5-on-5, and it's like I wish he'd do more of that, And I think if he did do that stuff on top of the defense he played, he would be a $7 million player. But he doesn't do it. Like, I guess you could put him on the power play, and maybe he'll eventually do it. But you got to show something at 5-on-5 a little bit, right? You can't just be good defensively if you're going to be on the power play, right? Like, you got to show that you're going to do something on the power play. Now, with how bad our power play was, they probably should have tried everybody, including the backup goalie. But like, that's a different scenario. So I think it's a great deal, all things considered. You got him for the bulk, if not all, of his prime. It's a very reasonable and tradable number for sure, especially in like 3-4 years, 2, 3, 4 years. If he gives you just what he's been giving you more consistently, and he gets bigger, and he just learns more, it's only going to be more and more of a solid deal from here. And you're going to see him without Torts. It's going to, who knows how he's going to play under Tocchet. Maybe he'll be a little unleashed. Maybe he'll feel better taking those chances because him and Tippett, Jesus Christ, Torts didn't get along at all. So maybe he was like, I'm not going to try for the Spinneroonie because God forbid it goes wrong, I'm out for 5 games or whatever. So we might actually see it come out, and what does it matter? He's signed, he's locked up. So it's just a positive. So I really, and I gave him a lot of credit for what he did with Torts. You know how I am. I'm an old school guy. So when another player actually steps up to that coach, I love it. I give him huge marks for that. And I have high hopes for York, honestly. I don't think he's going to explode or anything like that, but I really think he's going to have a really nice, solid season under Tocchet. And I think he's going to already show that contract is way undervalued. It's not at this time, but I think we're going to see this year that it will be.
Wow. Yeah, I guess for me, I got to see it to believe it with York, right? Like, he did have a 30-point season. He had the 10 goals, 20 assists. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say he needs the power play time, and I'm going to stick to my guns here and say that he's not a power play guy. Like, don't get me wrong, he can distribute.
Okay.
He can distribute the puck, right? But like, it's the same problem with Sanheim, in my opinion. If you don't have to worry about a guy, especially a defenseman who's likely playing the point or along the blue line, if you don't have to worry about him shooting the puck because it's not getting through, he's probably passing the puck. You know what I mean? So it's like, when people say, why doesn't Sanheim get a shot? That's why. Why doesn't York get a shot? That's why. You can't create. So a guy for me like Jamie Drysdale, who I'm not saying is the example or setting the bar high here, but how he can create his own shot. Maybe he doesn't have the hardest shot, but he finds a way to get it through. He can thread the needle a little bit. I don't know. Maybe him and York hang out over the summer and they practice it. Yeah.
They could trade. They could trade stuff and both be hell defensemen.
Sure.
But the thing with York is he was drafted as an offensive guy. Like, I don't understand. And he played that way in not juniors, wherever the hell he was. Like, and it was just like, that was his draft profile. An smaller offensive defenseman. Mm-hmm. And yes, maybe some of his defensive stuff had been under the radar, but where's the offense? Like, we've been saying that for a long time, and you've seen flashes. We all have, and it's highlight reel stuff. It's just twice a year, like, if that. Like, it's very strange. And another thing that's going to be interesting, it's like you have York, who should at least be like the second power play unit defenseman, and then you have Drysdale, who's probably really here exclusively for offense from the defensive position, who's definitely going to be on your PP1. I was giving Drysdale a little bit of a pass this year because of the surgery. I was going to give him this past season. So now we're coming into this season. I just said what I said about York. I'm going to be a little bit harder on Drysdale this year. Like, this is where he needs to, I'm not going to say blow up and have his breakout year, but definitely take a step forward, and he's got to be better than York. And it's going to be hard to judge because you're going to look at York, what he does defensively, not offensively, and Drysdale vice versa. So I am going to look at some of those other numbers, and just he's got to be able to hold his own at 5-on-5 and then do what he can on the power play. And we'll see what the new coach does and all that. And that's another thing. Everybody's getting used to something here. But it's going to be interesting because they're like two, I don't want to say similar players. When they were drafted, you might think that. with Drysdale definitely being the more offensive one, but still, and where they settled now. And the Flyers have committed to York now. I mean, yeah, you could trade that contract, but 5 years, that's in their window. He's young enough, 24 years old. Is somebody else on the way out when the time comes? Because it seems like we just talked about all the defensive players that could play on the power play, and there's only 2 power play units, and we named 3 guys, and that doesn't include anybody else coming along. So I am curious, and York will probably fall back into his normal role, but are you getting as much out of him as you should be? Does Drysdale struggle and you need to make a change? Sure, it could be Andre. Are you bumping Drysdale down, or is he going to be out, or what's the deal? So there's a lot to think about here, and I don't know. I mean, you got a new coach. So I really think that York may try a thing or two. I'm hoping to see it at 5-on-5 to get himself into the conversation of a potential power play, because the talent is there. And that, as somebody pointed out in the chat, they're all buds. All the buds are here. Maybe they figure something out. I don't know. I don't usually do 2 defensemen on a power play, but York and Drysdale with Zegras, that would be interesting. And Michkov, obviously, and then TK. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? I typically don't like 2 defensemen on a power play unit, but if we're trying to figure
the average height of that power play is like 5'9".
Well, we drafted enough to be 6'5" for the rest of eternity. So we have the reinforcements are coming. Don't worry. It's not about next year. It's about the year after that.
All right.
We got to get a guy in the middle for Jim. We got to get somebody to block the goalie. Big bodies in front. So change it up.
I would love that. Yeah. All right. So speaking of big bodies in front, we want to talk forward lines tonight. We talked Cam York for a little bit. Well, now let's the focus for the week, at least so far through Wednesday, has been forwards. And the forward lines heading into next year, Jack, are going to be a little bit different. And not just because Forster may miss time. I don't think he's going to miss as much time as maybe we think. And I do want to speculate on that injury a little bit at some point in the episode too, because I don't know how truthful the Flyers were about that. But we'll talk to that a little.
Okay. No, is it how it happened or what it is?
Yeah, how it happened. But that's pure speculation. We'll save that for the end if we have time. I do want to talk forward groups because Porter Martone, right now, the big talk is he going to go to college? Gavin McKenna, the hands down number 1 overall pick next year, has just signed on with Penn State. And there are rumors that Martone was looking at signing with Penn State even before McKenna did. Does he go to college? While he was here for Dev Camp, all he was saying was he wants to play for the Flyers next year. He's going to work his ass off to make the team. I think he has until I'm sorry, I forget the date. Jack, do you remember the date that they have to sign for college? Was it like September 1st or something like that? Or maybe it's even sooner.
But I believe he can. There's like a mid-submission, like a midway submission thing or something they can do. As long as he doesn't sign, basically what I had heard, if he does not sign an ELC with the Flyers, there's a way to get him back to college.
Yeah.
Like he can do the 10-game tryout and go back to college. That is still a thing. It's like late. What are they, when you sign up for the classes, was that admission or whatever? It's like a late admission or something like that. So, because it's college, like you could do that. I remember being able to do stuff like that. So if they want him late enroll, that was the word I was looking for. Like something like that. Thank you, Peter Thomas Wills. Like he can enroll later in the year and they'll work it out. It's college. If they want the kid and he didn't sign an NHL deal, ELC, they can get him in. So you can't wait half the year, or maybe they can, but like they can wait. They have time to play with. It's just from like the start. It's like September, like I think 1st, right around there. That sounds right. But if he wanted to like stick around, because he wants to make the NHL, he's made that known. And with the Forrester injury, and there was already probably an opening, but Bump's going to make that interesting. There's a world where Bump, Luchenko, and Martone all make the Flyers, at least on opening night. I think that's what ultimately is going to happen. I think Martone will get like a look and then go back to college. So not many players in this draft were NHL ready, and I think the case would be either Schaefer or Misa. And I don't know if any of them are going to make the jump right away. So I think they'll get a look, and I think they'll send him back.
Okay. All right. So let's get into lines a little bit here. Like, the thing that I'm wondering is Christian Dvorak. Jack, the Flyers are paying him $5.4 million to play the fourth line center. I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well,
That's top six money.
Well, it was also
It's top six money.
It's also 1 year as opposed to two or three. That's why you bump that number up. But yeah, I get your point. He's brought in as a stabilizer. You can't just roll with Obels or Dorwart, because if you have an injury, he could really be in trouble down the middle. And outside of goaltending, that was probably their biggest issue. I think he's a big body. If things go off the rails, he's a big guy. He's going to win faceoffs. That's a big thing too. He was brought in to win faceoff, be a little bit of a stabilizer for the bottom six. And I think ultimately that's where he's going to stay outside of massive injury or something wild. Or if Zegras is so bad that they have to and can't win a faceoff, that they just have to move him the wing, then maybe you're looking at something here. But I don't see Dvorak as anything more than a get us through this season kind of thing.
I don't know. The last fourth line center they had was making $2 million something.
Yeah, but that was a reclamation project.
Now they're paying their new fourth line center. They gave him a $3 million raise.
You're talking out of context, Jimmy. If it was a
Doesn't
real
make
deal,
sense.
If he signed like a 3 or 4 year deal, he's making 4-ish, a little more, maybe a little less, something like that. He's
still
like,
a lot of money.
We only want
line center.
What? At the end of the day, if it's 1 year, not my money. I don't care.
Well, I'm saying if it was the 3 year deal, $4 million, that's still.
If it was 3 years at 5.6, I'd be like, yeah, he better get power play time or penalty kill time rather. He better be doing this, that. Yeah, he better be taking every single face off this team needs to take and then getting off the ice or something. I understand that, but it's more to than what he's going to do. But again, there's going to be injuries. There always is. That's why you want somebody in here like that. I think they really liked him and wanted him, so they overpaid because they wanted him and because it's a 1 year deal. And that 1 year deal thing's huge because they want to have as much money as they can for 2026. And you know who still hasn't signed an extension, Jim?
Connor McDavid.
You said it, not me, pal. I'm just saying. You
don't think I've been watching that every day? Like, all right, another day's gone by. He can sign a contract today if he wants, and he hasn't.
We're under the 360 mark already. How many days in a year? 365? We're under the 360 mark. Let's go. Everybody on the train, baby.
What's the holdup here, man? Sign the deal. All right.
Well, there's issues in Edmonton. I mean, although they did trade for Isaac Howard, so we can cross that off the wish list.
I've seen guys penciling him into the second line with Edmonton already, and it's like, holy hell, man.
It's a money thing out there. It's like they can't really bring anybody in.
But there's no way that he's playing second line.
I agree. No.
No way.
We'll trade him to Dvorak. But yeah, it was wild because the prospect they traded was the pick we gave to Edmonton last year. That's who they selected, the Sam O'Reilly. I believe. Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's funny. It kind of, it doesn't really involve us, but it kind of does because we all wanted Isaac Howard. You see a team who's got an asset, Hobie Baker Award winner. It's like, yeah, let's take advantage of that. We have 100 picks, and we somehow did not. But
so there was a way that all right. So let's kind of hash this out a little bit here. So Flyers traded. It was the 31st overall pick 2 years ago.
32nd.
32nd with Edmonton, and the Flyers had the 31st overall pick this year. Is that the pick that they used to trade up for Nesbitt, or is that the pick that they moved back with? That's the Nesbitt pick?
They traded the rest of their first round to move up for Nesbitt because they had to have him.
How do you feel about that? They have Jack Nesbitt over Ike Howard now. Jack.
Well, I wouldn't break it down like that. But Nesbitt looked pretty decent in dev camp. Skating still obviously a massive
2 goals in the scrimmage.
Yeah, whee! It's the issue.
EWG.
Still 6'5". Yeah, weighed in correctly. But I don't feel good about that at all. I don't know if I want to go down this road again. I don't hate the guy, but it's just the trading up.
Oh yeah, we don't have to go down there. It's going to be a few years till we see him anyways. So
yeah,
we don't have
a few
to.
more. So yeah, so don't do it.
I do want to try to hash out lines eventually. Yeah, and this is Broad Street Breakout. If you guys haven't followed the Broad Street Breakout yet, make sure you go do that. They were doing great stuff over there. Any comments going to use Dvorak like they used Lawton. Could be first line, could be fourth. Need a guy who's versatile. And, we're going to, I think, try to do our early off-season line mock-up just to see what we got. But I might surprise some people with where I have Dvorak in mind. I mean, especially considering
center.
Forster's out for a little bit, maybe.
Well, yeah, I already see where you're going with this. I will look. The versatility is definitely a huge thing. What I was talking about with injury, obviously, face-offs, his size. He's a pro. He's an NHL. This is a young team, and he's a pro at a position in need for 1 year. That's why I didn't have a big deal with how much they gave him. It made sense, And on top of that, where he had his best developmental years were under Tocchet in Arizona. So there's a connection there as well. So I feel like where do you have him, Jim? Because I don't want to go too far. Where do you have him? Second line center?
Well, I'll save it. So it's a little the suspense now. I'll let it build. Let's start with the first line.
Well, yeah, I think you got to go Coots at center. I don't think you go start Zegras right away. I don't think you do that. I think he's new. He's been playing wing for a while. Let him settle in. Don't throw him out there right away. Yes, my dream. If I'm playing NHL, I'm going Zegras, Michkov, and Konechny. I'm just move him over there, make it work. I'm holding down speed every time these guys are playing like Stanley Cup Game 7 every game. Yeah, I get it. So, but I think realistically, because it never works out the way we want it to, I think they're probably going to they're going to probably keep Coots and Michkov together at first, because while Coots may have some issues, although he did look a lot more like himself towards the end of the year, he and Michkov think the game at the same level, and that is huge. And I think they're going to want to keep those two together. Left wing, I'm not sure. Maybe they force Konechny over there. Maybe they give Tippett a shot. I'm not sure. But as far as the center position goes, I think they'll at least start the season with Coots at 1C.
Okay. And then you have Michkov over on the right side.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a rookie anymore. I mean, he led in goals. He was, second in points? Like, yeah, definitely. I think they want to keep him with Coots, and they should. Unless there's some kind of, preseason, him and Zegras are just Michigan it back to each other and then into the net. Unless something wild like that happens. I think they're going to want to at least to start the season and let Zegras settle into his new role or his new team, new city. It's a culture shock for the guy. We've talked about culture shock before, particularly with Michkov. It's a real thing. So I think they're going to ease him in. I think that's the right move as well. And then make adjustments as the season goes.
Yeah, I'm kind of on this. I'm on the same page with you here. Some combination of Michkov, Couturier, Konechny on the first line. I think that's. I think it's got to be your first line. You have your two vets and then your top scorer.
And Forrester being out kind of throws a little bit of a wrench, but it's what I would do. That's the first line. If TK is fine playing left, why wouldn't you at least start the season that way? Because then you got opportunity for other guys. There could realistically, if let's say Martone starts the season with the team, you're not gonna put him on your top line, at least not right away. Maybe one game or a shift or two. But you want to have him kind of play with somebody. I thought they were going to keep the Cates, Brink, and Forrester line together. Obviously, you got to replace Forrester, but that's where kind of guy like Alex Bump could come in. What's Bump known for at this point? His shot. What's Forrester known for? His shot. It kind of makes sense. And I think Bump will make the team. I'm not even going by just development camp. I'm going by his mindset, what we've seen from the kid. I do think he's going to. Yeah, he goes. Linden, it's on the same train as me. Let's go. So I think that makes sense. So I don't. That could be your second line. Could be your third line. It's just going to go by minutes, I guess. So obviously, Cates is another center. Spoiler alert. But I think they're going to want to keep the young guys are going to go on the top line. There's an off shot. I could see Tippett maybe being a consideration. But the way he finished last season, I don't see that unless he blows the doors off at training camp, and Tocchet loves him or something like that. I don't see how you can go another way and then have your younger guys just figure it out with the rest of the lineup so you have something you like. It's not like we have Frost and Farabee again. You got young new blood in here, and I'm looking forward to that. I want to see Zegras on a line with eventually maybe Forrester. Because as much as I love the Brink and Cates Forrester line, Forster's a top 6 player. He needs to get off that line and play higher in the lineup. So when he comes back, I can see him playing with Zegras. And we'll see what they slide everybody else and how the dust settles. But it's going to depend on who makes the team. But you're not going to have a young guy make the team and immediately play top 6. Definitely not top line. So I think you got to stick your stars up there at least to start the season.
Yeah, so this is what I would do. You have your third line, right? If Forster's healthy, I'm not touching that line. You have a line. Like that line was, look, it's the same thing as Cam York, a number 1 defenseman. That line was their makeshift, number 1 line last year. Ideally you want it to be the second or even in this case, your third line. But there's chemistry there. So when Forster's healthy, I'm keeping that line. That's a thing. All right. So top line, I think we're looking at Coots, Konechny, Michkov, however you want to line them up, doesn't matter. So now we're looking at our second line, right? And they went out and traded for Trevor Zegras. By all accounts, it sounds like they're going to give him every opportunity to succeed at center. That's the position he wants to play. That's the position the Flyers need him at, right? So pencil him in, center. On his right side, and some people may like this, some people may not like this, Owen Tippett. When we were talking to Victor, I'd mentioned this is a guy, like I just see him as a wild stallion, Jack. Like he plays the game hard, but a lot of times, like, number 1 is hockey sense, leaves a little bit to be desired. Number 2, you'd like him to hit the net more often. And so I just wonder if these are things that Rick Tocchet can rein in, because and Victor even mentioned this too. At times there was actual chemistry with a player like Morgan Frost, who was a puck possession guy. I've yet to really watch Trevor Zegras play, but I am curious to see what those two look like together. Tippett likes to get out in transition. It's the way that he scores a lot of his goals, a lot of his points. It could also be why he doesn't score that often on the power play. Where it's more set plays and you're set up in the offensive zone kind of thing. So you have 2 offensive-minded players on this line, right? And so what are we going to do on the left side, right? We need a second line left winger all of a sudden. I don't think Martone is going to even make it to development camp here. We have a comment from Broad Street Breakout. I think Martone goes to college. If I'm the Flyers, I want him to go to college, right? Let him get on those college programs. Let him get on those college meal plans, those workout schedules. Let him beef up, and then next year, really make a shot to make the Flyers.
I'm in agreement.
So that second line left wing spot for me is wide open, right? And if Forster's going to miss time, I'll pencil bump into that third line left wing spot. Okay, so second line left wing still wide open. If we look around the roster here, I don't know what do we have. We have Anthony Richard, who I enjoyed watching last year while he was up with the Flyers.
Does Luchenko make the team and bump Cates to a wing?
I don't think so, no.
He'll have to make it the team at all.
Not to start. I mean, maybe he gets a couple games or something like that.
Another tryout, huh?
I thought he was rushed last season with Tortorella.
Oh, yeah.
Tortorella was – look, and as much as I do respect Torts, he was looking out for his own ass last year, which, most guys do, I guess, at this level.
Well, he clearly couldn't handle the losing anymore. He couldn't. And
right. And so Luchenko was one of his best centers, at least in his mind. So he's putting one of his best guys on the ice to win games. And Luchenko, I think, wasn't ready, and the Flyers weren't ready to win games.
Yeah, they got into a big hole early.
And I think sitting Cates even set the Flyers back. They got a slow start last year. Yeah. Cates ended up being one of their most consistent players. So sitting Cates, whatever message you were trying to send last year, affected the team as a whole.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I mean, I wouldn't rule out them bumping up Brink to the second line for a little bit. That line's already not intact without Forster, who would be the ideal guy. But like Brink has shown you that he can do whatever you ask of him and more. And so to get you by, because I don't think you want to put bump on the second line right away, at least not immediately. But maybe reward a guy for what he's been doing for you, at least in the short term, and see what he can do. I think he would supplement those players because Zegras and Tippett are two highlight reel guys. So you're going to need somebody who's a little, a little different than that. And I don't know if Briggs perfect for that, but what are our options here?
Do you want my guy or do you want me to give you more options?
I don't know. There's somebody on the screen. Is that it?
Where?
Okay, it's not.
Oh, Grabankin. No, we'll get to Grabankin.
Give me your guy.
So my opening day, starting second line left wing,
Trey Turner.
Christian Dvorak.
Left wing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because he can take the face-offs and then move out to wing. Is that what you're thinking? Because Zegras is not a good face-off guy. Yeah. But we want him to stick at center. It's been done. Giroux did it. Giroux would take the face-offs and kind of shift out to wing. That's not that crazy. I don't at least with the injuries they have now, I'd rather see some other stuff. I'd rather see somebody come and take it. But if they're kind of like, what do we do here?
It's not the sexy play, but it could be, like a logical thing. Like, all right, we don't know what we're going to have if they pair. Because I'm just saying, I want to see Zegras and Tippett. I want to see. I'm not saying that they need to work or that has to happen. I just want to see how these guys go together. Will they work? Because both two offensive-minded players. The one guy who's playing center, not that great in the dot. Hopefully that improves. We're paying this guy $5.4 million. Let's bump him up a couple lines, provide some defense, can take some face-offs, and who knows? Maybe the line works out. All of a sudden, his point totals are a little bit higher than usual. That trade deadline comes around, and all of a sudden, a team needs a Christian Dvorak. They need another Scott Lawton. Somebody compared him to Scott Lawton in the chat. All of a sudden, the Flyers are getting another pick and a prospect at the trade deadline.
For Dvorak on a one. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, look, in the short term, we talked about the versatility of a player like that. Not that crazy, especially because I mentioned if you're going to put Tippett and Zegras together and with the way they play, you're going to want somebody defensively responsible on that line. And maybe somebody can throw the body around a little bit too, and he'll do that too. So, and take the faceoffs. Not that crazy. Not ideal, but definitely not that crazy.
No, and I think maybe the Forster injury maybe could. I don't know if it allows that to happen. Or look, if I'm making the opening day lineup now, Forster is still my third line wing to go along with Cates and Brink. I want to see if they still have that same chemistry.
And honestly, Jim, that might be their second line, and they might see what they have. True. And then that suddenly Dvorak makes more sense if you consider it your third line. You know, Tippett, nobody's going to cry about Tippett being on third line the way things have gone last year. Sure. Zegras, it's a new whole thing. It doesn't matter where he plays. We're just happy he's here. Start here and the sky's the limit. So yeah, it's not that wild. It's a shame. The injury's a shame. It's an infection. That's what that's the thing. It's an infection. Oh, Jim doesn't think it's an infection at all.
No, I mean it could be, but it doesn't make sense to me because I don't remember him missing time in that tournament a month or so ago.
Well, that's because you're right. But whatever he had done, you could play through it. The bicep, I believe. And once the surgery was done, that's when the infection came after the surgery.
So it happened after the surgery. Okay, got it.
That's the thing. That can happen. I think that happened to Risto as well, like last year. And it's like, he's not going to cut his arm off or anything, but like you have to be very careful with infections. So I think it has a lot to do with that. Now, him missing up until like January or more for an infection, it must be pretty rough or bad. But I hope they're like really keeping an eye on that. Like, come on, he better be getting house calls every day or every other day or some shit. Like, come on. So, I don't think there's shenanigans. Now, if you want to argue, did it happen at World Juniors? Did it happen UFC wrestling? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know. Because he looked pretty happy taking a picture, didn't he? So
yeah, I didn't see anything wrong. I mean, I guess it could have all been taken care of afterwards, and he's like on it. Dude, I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know.
He had the surgery and shouldn't have been messing around on the mat and did something.
Maybe somebody put him in the
armbar.
What
were you going to say? Something weird?
I was thinking of some weird wrestling move like
the jackknife,
crawl face, crippler,
crossface, Jim, crossface. And we don't talk about Benoit because he did bad things. We do not talk about.
I was just watching one of those documentaries before the show.
I've seen them all.
Double J Jeff Jarrett just laid down at the Bash at the Beach.
That's because I cannot get into this conference. I'll have everybody on till midnight. I can't. Death of WCW, one of the reasons. And it wasn't him, it was Hogan. Move on.
But I'm watching this and I'm like, how the hell is Hogan versus Jeff Jarrett? Like the marquee fight. And I agreed with Hogan. I'm like, why the hell would I lose to this guy? I would never lose to him.
No, I can't get into this right now. I can't. I'm having you on all day. Jarrett was never a main event guy. I don't know why he ever got the belt. Probably because of his father. Anyway, move on.
Okay.
9-hour podcast.
All right. So, Grant, let's talk about the fourth line. So the only guy that I really have penciled in to the fourth line is Garnet Hathaway. And I think on a rebuilding team, you want a few spots open on your fourth line, especially when you have some young guys. Lyndon mentions Devin Kaplan. Grant Shilley mentions Carson Dorwart. Nobody mentioned Rodrigo Abels yet, who got some time last year and didn't look out of place. I believe he's Austrian. Let me see here. I have this up. He's 29 years old. It was a 29-year-old rookie last year. Can play center, left wing, 6'4", 205. Is he the Austrian? There were two guys that came over. Yeah, Rodrigo Abels. He doesn't have an Austrian name, so
it's not Raffle, so it threw me off.
Yeah. So he's in the mix.
I thought he would have been the leading guy before they signed Dvorak, to be honest with you. He's what they would probably want a fourth line center, just build.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a competition. It's going to be, you want dogs on your fourth line. You got Kaplan, you got Dorwart, who I actually enjoyed watching last year. You got Abels, the 29-year-old.
I would prefer it be Dorwart for sure. That makes the most sense. Yeah, please, blow the doors off. Show your your skill. But with Dvorak now, you're kind of playing for that, I don't want to say bench role, but first call up, first guy in. It would seem like at this time.
Sure. Lyndon mentions Grebenkin, and the sense that I get is that I'm not as high on Grebenkin as maybe most are. And I'm not going to be the Debbie Downer because I'm in a good mood tonight, and I'm not going to talk about the holes in Grebenkin's game. I'll just tell you what I see in a nice way. I think Grebenkin is, at least what I see, a skill player, a skill guy, but he has but they're not top 6 in the NHL. They're not top 6 skills in the NHL. So then it becomes, okay, he can play the third line, or he could be a bottom 6 guy. And when I watch him, at least with the short time he was with the Phantoms, he doesn't have a bottom 6 work ethic. So what I see is, a top 6 or a middle 6 AHL guy when I watch Grebenkin. He doesn't have the work ethic in the offensive zone. Doesn't work without the puck in the defensive zone. Look, and maybe it's just the games that I watched. Doesn't throw the body. Doesn't really look interested in anything physical. Not tough in the corners. He's around goal, and he'll pick up loose pucks around goal, or he'll be on waiting on the doorstep for loose change, things like that. But I don't think the skills are there to play top 6 in the NHL, and I don't think the work ethic is there to play bottom 6 in the NHL. So that's about as nice as I can say what I want to say about Grebenkin. Is that fair?
I mean, that is fair, because when I look at Grebenkin as a whole, I'm kind of I like the prospect. I would put him ahead of a lot of guys on the Phantoms right now, but does that make him an NHL guy? And I'm kind of I know he's going to get a cup of coffee. I know he's going to, how will he play with other NHL talent? And I think what you just said is probably what's going to be the nail in the coffin for his career. The skills he does have are good, but are they top 6 good? Probably not. He's also a right wing, a team full of wings, particularly right wing. And, does he have the work ethic? I don't know if it's as bad as you made it sound, because I did watch a lot of those playoff games. It wasn't fantastic by any means, But it was, I don't remember like it sticking out like, dude, he needs to get back or, anything. Like he's taking stupid penalties or anything like that because of being lazy. But, we'll see. He's a guy I'm going to keep my eye on because when I look down, when the Flyers have their guys go back to juniors or college and they have their team, who's going to be with the Phantoms? He's probably one of the top guys. Like, who do you at wing? Let's say Bump makes the team because obviously Bumps would be, Bump makes the team. Martone goes to college. Like, what wingers do you have ranked above Grabenkin? Because he's above Tuilamala for me because Tuilamala can't stay healthy. He just can't do it in the AHL. So, I mean, I like Tuilamala a little bit, but right now, Grabenkin's probably my best bet at wing to get called up, unless I'm forgetting somebody.
No, I think that's correct, yeah.
Unless they go with an older guy like Anthony Richard. I don't even know if he's still the team, to be honest with you. Those guys are kind of journeymen.
But they really like Goche, but he's a center.
Yeah, I mean, they got their big guys at center and whatnot. So you're calling up a winger. Plus, he's a guy you added in a trade. He's got offensive skill. He's Russian. That's going to mean something now. Probably only a little bit, but still something. I don't think by any stretch. I've seen like, oh, could he make the team? Like, no, I don't think so at all. But could he get called up? Maybe if he can clean up some of the stuff Jim's talking about and really start to shine, with whatever they got down there, who stay healthy and whatnot. But I think you have a pretty good at where he is now. If he can't change what you just said about his work ethic and his skill set, if he can't change one or the other, and the easiest one to change would be the work ethic, he might be a non-factor. And look, he was a 3rd-round pick for a reason. So, I think that's fair. I don't have him making the team by any stretch. I do pencil him in as you somehow take a hit at wing. Who you calling up? He my first guy. That doesn't make him an NHL player by any stretch. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And look, his main competition is going to be Alex Bump, and we know the Flyers love him.
Bump shined at Dev Camp.
They're going to give him every chance to succeed.
His shot, and the you see, what goalies are there? I think Bjarnason went, but those events don't do goalies any. They have 3-on-3 tournaments and whatnot. Like, it doesn't really allow the goalie to shine. But Bump looked good. Bump looked. His shot looked good. He looked good. He wasn't perfect. I think somebody decked him, and he was slow getting up. I think he was that guy.
I think it
was. I was going to say he's like partially deaf, right?
That I'm not sure.
I think that's the deaf guy, or okay. He can hear a little bit. I think it was him. He was hitting everybody. No, pal. Like, from what I understand, he was throwing a body around. So, kudos to him. But him and it's a center, and it's a good comment by 49 Linda 49. I didn't hear all that much about Kaplan, but Knubel's kid, is it what's his first name? I can't remember. Cole, thank you. Has really put himself on the map. Like, I think I read a part of an interview where they interviewed Brent Flair about his ability. Like, do you think, what does he have to do to get a contract? And like, just go to college for another year. That's it. Like, which he's going to do. Like, he's already got it. He just needs to go. Like, they liked enough of what they saw. I'm like, okay, well, he's a center, so I'll take it.
He had a massive improvement.
Yes.
So his freshman season at Notre Dame was, I think, a disappointment until the end. It was one of those situations where, underwhelming season, underwhelming freshman year, which is not uncommon. He was a 4th-round pick by the Flyers, but then started to pick things up towards the end of the year. And this past season ended up being over a point per game guy, 39 points, 34 games, 12 goals, 27 assists as a sophomore at Notre Dame. Now he's 21 years old, just turned 21 in July 1st. But yeah, if he can go out and have another solid year at Notre Dame, or even look, he's got to be pretty close to getting a contract there.
It sounds like he's got it, but they just want him to go back and kind of bulk up some more because he's a different style of center. That he's definitely bottom 6, so he comes with that. But they're kind of like, you're going to get a contract. Just go do what you did last year, maybe a little bit more, and stay healthy, and he'll probably be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which is great. You want it because you just brought in this big class of all these guys. Like Van Sagi was laying like those reverse hits. I don't even know the name of the player that went after him. He just kind of like this, and the guy went flying. Murtagh has a nice shot. Spencer Gill apparently looked pretty good. Another big boy. going to make us forget about Hunter McDonald, from what I understand. Well, it's dev camp, but still. These are things you want to hear. These are things you want to hear, particularly for positions that need, so it's dev camp. I'm not gonna go crazy, it's whatever. But if you were to have any kind of takeaway from dev camp, these are the kind of things you want to hear.
Yeah, you want to see them playing well, and different guys stand out.
Because Bump is the guy, especially when we didn't get Shabanov. I'm like, Bump is better anyway, so Afangul, and I want you to not only make the team, but run over Shabanov when we play the Islanders and score. And that's going to happen. Bookmark that when we play the Islanders. Bump makes the team. It's going to be the shift, the Bump shift. Except for it's not a bump. He's going to nail him. I didn't curse, Jim. Are you proud of me?
Well, you did in Italian.
So hour and does an algorithm pick that up?
I don't know. Maybe
we'll
in
find
Italy.
out. I guess we'll find out.
All right, everybody. We're an hour and 15 in. We covered the forward groups. That's going to pretty much do it for this episode, I think, Jack. Was there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about during tonight's show?
I'll just run down some things real quick. So I agree with Lyndon here. He did not play. Maybe it has something to do with the knee. Nor did Luchenko, nor did Barkey, nor did Bonk. None of those guys skated at Dev Camp. The Phantoms have a new head coach. It was one of the assistants. So that system changing, probably not going to change because it was one of the assistants under what's his name? I believe the new head coach's name is I think I have it right here. Hang on. The new Phantoms head coach is, and I deleted it. They have a new head coach.
Edward Snowden.
That's it. Thank you. So there will be no secrets. There's no secrets with the Phantoms. That's for
I think it's John Snowden.
No, can't be. Jon Snow. Is that what you're going for?
No, I was kidding around with the first one because Edward Snowden is the guy that's exiled to Russia.
I don't think it's John.
Supposedly being a spy.
All right, now I have to know. I'm going with Eric.
Eric Snowden. Eric?
Eric's pregnant.
All right. Well, I'm pretty sure we got the last name right. Whoever guesses the new Phantom head coach's first name in the comments will win.
I'm going to beat him. It is John. You son of a bitch. You were right. Jon Snow. Then.
I was right.
You were right.
Wow.
I'm making jokes. I'm making jokes over here, and you were right.
I saw it once.
So you know what he looks like and everything, huh?
Actually, yeah.
That would be photographic, Jim.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, let's quit while we're ahead.
Let's end on Jack was right.
Yeah. All right, boys and girls. I think that's going to do it for our episode. We'll put out more content for the rest of this week. If you haven't already, we put out a video Monday or Sunday covering the Flyers forward lines and potential combinations like we talked about tonight. Tonight was more so, I think, what we thought it could look like realistically, whereas on Sunday I was kind of just throwing lines together. Also put out a Trevor Zegras video. Do you really think he's going to bounce back this year? Did he just need a change of scenery? Did he just need to play the center position between two skilled players, which he's going to have guaranteed here, whether it's first or second line or even third line? So I'm curious to hear what people thought about that. I had a comment in the chat for one of those for the Zegras video where somebody commented that wasn't really a deep dive. It's not. It wasn't advertised as one. But yeah, make sure you guys go check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. So yeah, we'll have more content out later this week. What's today? Wednesday, Jack?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we'll have more out for you guys.
It is Wednesday.
We just hit 500K views for the last 4 months. So thank you guys for that.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys are great. It really means a lot to us. So thanks for tuning into the episode. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, make sure you subscribe. Wait, we got a new button for this. StreamYard stepping their game up. Make sure you guys subscribe. Wow, look at that. And subscribe.
The like looks like a love, and the subscribe with the bell is perfect.
Yes. So make sure you guys go do that, please. We are looking to hit 2,000 YouTube subscribers by August 16th. So like and leave a comment for us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Set alerts so you're the first to know when we drop a new show. And for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. I just gave that site a facelift. Let me know what you guys think. Until then, for Jack, I'm Jim. Keep it high, keep it wide. We'll talk to you guys next time on High and Wide Hockey. Bye-bye.
Afangu.
There goes the algorithm.